Bolivar Live, Birding on Bolivar with Winnie and Wyatt is brought to you by Beachy Beatnik Boutique, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas. Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live, and once again we're here birding on Bolivar with Winnie and Wyatt. Today we're at the Rookery, and this is probably, out of all the places in Highland or on Bolivar, to me, this has got to be the most well-known and the most colorful, or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
But we're going to do the show a little bit different today. We're going to talk about where we're at, and then we're going to move to the Skywalk, and then we're going to move and sort of take you on a tour around through the Rookery so you can see all the different views that you can have up here. Winnie, we're at the parking area. This is where usually there's volunteers. You can buy your patch, you can pay your entry fee. And speaking of entry fee, what's it cost for someone that wants to come for the day versus someone that wants to get the patch for the year?
So it's $10 a day.
Okay.
And that's for adults. Children and students are free.
Okay.
And Highland residents are free. And then we have a $35 patch that's for the season.
Okay.
So that means you can come in as much as you want all year round.
All year round. How did the Skywalk and the restrooms were all brought about the same time, weren't they?
They were. There were a couple different grants that we got that we had a, remind me of her name.
Catherine McGovern.
Catherine McGovern gave us a very generous donation to do the bathrooms and the boardwalk, the Skywalk, and we welcomed that donation because we've used porta potties here before for many years, and people are much happier to go to a bathroom than a porta potty.
Right.
And the Skywalk is a wonderful experience, so we were very happy to get that.
I was going to say the first time I was on it was about a year ago, I think, or a little less. No, the first time I was on it was probably about a year ago, and the view from up there that you're going to see is incredible. I mean, it takes you through. I've always walked through the back, through the big oak trees, but it gives you a whole different view. And so, Wyatt, what's your first impression on the Rookery? Because you're not from down here. You've been here 3 or 4 years. When you first saw it, what did you think?
Well, when I first saw it, I was actually here as a visitor.
Oh, were you?
And it over time, it's changed. Like everything here, we're in a place that's kind of. There's a lot of change from year to year, but there's very few places where you can see as many different species of nesting water birds, herons and egrets and spoonbills as here. So it's definitely, it's a very visually arresting
tour?
Yeah, it's view. Yeah, there's lots of different colors.
And the nice thing is, this is one of the few places you can get close to them.
Yeah,
because they're used to people, and so you can stand pretty close and watch everything they do.
And talking about the sound, y'all, we had a video we played several weeks ago, a promo on it, was 1 minute long, and I took the sound, I slowed the video down, but I pulled the sound off it, and the cormorants and the spoonbills and just everything it just went crazy. In fact, last time I checked, we'd had over 36,000 views on it because it's the sound, and that's the sound you hear when you're walking up. The cormorants actually make it sound like it's a bunch of hogs out there, but it's not. And then once you walk up on the bank there and from the viewing platforms, well, let's just go take a look at it.
Now we're at the entrance to the Canopy Walk, the Catherine McGovern Canopy Walk, and it takes you from ground level to 20 feet so that you can see the birds up in the trees and you get a really good look at the Rookery.
So the great thing about the elevated canopy is that not only does it give you a better view of the birds on our Rookery Islands, it also gives you a better view of a lot of the migrants that we see in the spring. So different birds often eat and forage at different levels, and so a lot of times the prettiest birds are way up in the tops of the trees. So what the Canopy Walk does is it allows you to be basically eye level with these birds. So not only are they easier to see, but you also don't have to strain your neck to see them. And then with the Rookery birds, it also gives you a nice bird's eye view down onto the islands that they're using to nest. And so it makes it easier to see things like the eggs and some of the behaviors that those colonial water birds do. So we're standing at the upper level of the canopy walk here. This is Clay Bottom Pond, which is one of 2 ponds that support rookery birds here at Smith Oaks. There's a lot of activity here. We're kind of in the early part of the nesting season, but prior to Houston Audubon owning this property, there were no birds nesting here. There was too much disturbance and the birds didn't want to nest. But the year after Houston Audubon acquired this property, all of a sudden birds started nesting because of the management actions that Houston Audubon took. Right now, we are, like I said, kind of in the early stages of the nesting season. So ultimately, about 10 different species of colonial water birds or wading birds will nest here. Right now, we mostly have the neotropic cormorants, which are the blackbirds that sound like pigs, and the great egrets, which are the large white birds. So these birds use these islands because it provides them security. So we have a pretty healthy population of alligators here in both of these ponds, and those alligators are essentially a patrol. So any raccoons or bobcats or any small mammal that might try to get across to eat the eggs is going to find itself getting eaten by an alligator if it tries to do that. And so that gives these birds the opportunity to lay their eggs and nest securely. The birds that are nesting right now are the bigger species because, as you can kind of see, they like to use these trees. And so these bigger species can't fit into kind of the smaller nooks and crannies. And so that's why they start nesting first, so they can get the, they tend to nest in the areas kind of out on the edges of the trees. And then later when we return in April, you'll notice we'll have a lot of the smaller species will kind of nest in between. So right now, there's several hundred pairs of both cormorants and great egrets, and there are a couple dozen great egret nests already and a couple dozen neotropic cormorant nests. And then as the season goes, we'll start seeing other species start to begin their nesting, and more of these species more of the cormorants and the great egrets will start nesting as well. So right now, now is a good time to come to the rookery, because all these trees that these birds are in, they're alive. They're willow trees. And so as we get into the season, they're going to leaf out, and it's going to be a little bit harder to see a lot of these birds. And so the other benefit is a lot of these larger species have big eggs. So the white birds, the great egrets, if you stand here long enough, you'll often see them stand up and turn their eggs over. And so that helps them to kind of keep, because they're incubating, they don't want the yolk to get stuck to one side of the egg or the other. And so by flipping those eggs, that basically allows them to incubate evenly. Right now it's late February, early March. And so once we get into mid-March and sort of early April, we'll start seeing our snowy egrets start nesting. And so those are the smaller white birds. And then kind of early April, early to late April, the roseate spoonbills start nesting, the tricolored herons start nesting, and our little blue herons start nesting. And so basically, if you want to see lots of nests, April, early May is a great time. But then if you want to see a lot of baby birds in the nests, kind of mid-May to early June is usually the best time, because most of those later nesters then have chicks in the nest. And birds, some of these earlier nesters that may have not have been successful the first time, will have nested again. And so if you think it's noisy now, you come here mid-May, it's even noisier. So this is a little bit of a different angle on the rookery. I'm standing here on our levee trail, which runs basically parallel to the islands that these birds are using. And we actually have multiple platforms many of them have roofs, so if it's raining, you can get out of the rain. And this kind of gives you another a view of the goings-on on the islands here. One of our showstoppers that you'll notice in the background here are the roseate spoonbills. They're not nesting quite yet, but oftentimes they'll sort of gather and sort of check out the rookery and get to know each other, meet up with their mate. a lot of these birds, including the spoonbills, actually were almost wiped out by market hunting in the kind of around the turn of the century. And so that's actually why National Audubon was founded originally, was basically to try and advocate and stop and get legislation passed to stop market hunting. So that way these beautiful birds would continue to exist on our landscape. And so they were successful. You'll notice a lot of these great egrets have these really nice showy plumes on their backs. And so these birds only have those particular feathers during the breeding season. It's a part of their display. And so because of that action that was taken, they recovered very quickly. And so kind of along that same line, Houston Audubon is really excited to have these birds using our rookery. These ponds were actually created, or they were dug out. They're not natural ponds. And like I was saying earlier, there were no birds nesting on these islands, partly because there wasn't enough habitat and partly because there was a lot of disturbance. And so we're very excited to see the numbers continue to grow and stabilize every year. And you know, it's always exciting to see those birds come back and start displaying, because it's never necessarily a guarantee that we'll have these birds nesting here. It takes a lot of work to manage these islands and manage the sanctuary to ensure that the birds continue to come back and that it's a safe space for them to raise their chicks.
So we have trails on the ground too, as well as having the raised boardwalks. And there's trails all through Smith Oaks and Boy Scout Woods and our other two sanctuaries in High Island. And you have to always watch out for roots and branches and armadillo holes. We can fill up an armadillo hole one day and it's open the next. And from the ground you can see a lot of different birds that you can't see from the canopy walk. So it's worth it to walk the trails, not only just to see the birds, and sometimes you can see an armadillo, but also because it's a unique experience.
Well, as you can see, the Rookery is a beautiful area here. I love coming out here. A lot of times I'm by myself and I just sit and listen and watch the birds, and I've met some interesting people. In fact, I love taking pictures in the afternoon of the old pump house here at the Rookery area, but the way the light hits it and the way it can glow. So next week we're going to be at another location here in High Island. Stick around. It's going to be a great show. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. And I want to thank Beachy Beatnik Boutique for being our 10-week sponsor. God bless and bye-bye. Looking for the perfect blend of seaside charm and unique style? Nestled right here in the heart of Crystal Beach, Texas is Beachy Beatnik Boutique, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87. Beachy Beatnik Boutique is your coastal fashion haven and jewelry lovers' paradise. Special thank you to Beachy Beatnik Boutique for sponsoring our Spring 2025 Bolivar Live Birding on Bolivar. Video equipment is sponsored by Crystal Beach Decor and More, located at 1959 Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas, and Beachy Beatnik Boutique and Jewelry, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas. Thank you to these two businesses for being our 2025 video equipment sponsor for Bolivar Live.